So hello to you guys in the studio. We're coming to you live from Cape Town, South Africa, where we've been visiting a number of wine factories, wine farms to find out and explore for ourselves the entire wine industry in South Africa. There's so much to learn, so much to see, so much to explore from this side of town. But today we'll be putting the spotlight really on the wine industry in South Africa. And to walk us through the nitty-gritty of it is the Africa Market Manager for Wines of South Africa, Matome. Hi there.
Hi, good to be here. Cheers to you.
Thanks. Nice to see you again.
Good to be here indeed.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
talk to us first off. We know that South Africa is a leading producer of wine in Africa. Over 800 million liters of wine produced every year. You're exporting significant numbers. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. How did you get here?
Yeah, it's a long journey, but I think thanks to the wine industry for being able to take it through this far. I think it's been years of experience that the industry has acquired over the years. And but still, since the advent of democracy, we've seen that we've had access to be able to explore other parts of the world and be able to export South African wines. So it's been hard work over the years, and we are glad that the expertise has really matured.
So talk about the exports side of business. How has it been?
Look, I think it's been very good for South Africa. Obviously, since advent of democracy, we've been focusing on traditional markets, your UK, your European markets, and because those are the markets initially started receiving South African wines. But we've also seen growth in the USA and Canada markets. Asia markets as emerging market is growing. But the most fascinating is where opportunities lie for fellow Africans who are now embracing South African wines. So we're doing well in terms of growing other areas which are new, and indeed, Ghana is one of those.
Interesting. So we know wine is very traditional. So how has it been penetrating, especially the European market, with your products?
I think the advantage of that, when Jan van Riebeeck actually moved and started planting vines here in South Africa, and European vines, it was an opportunity for South Africa to literally get into the space. And fortunately, the diverse environment in which South Africa is placed, the Western Cape in particular, conducive for planting of the vines. And that diversity is actually also expressed in the actual vines as well as the berries, the grape itself. And so we are at an advantage to showcase what many other European and other wine producing regions don't have. We have a solid diversity which defines us differently to many others.
Okay. And how's the African market faring? What really are the prospects?
Look, I'm fascinated by virtue of having been a pioneer in positioning brand South Africa, and shout outs to many other wine producers who actually have seen an opportunity and started working in the continent. Because Africa was neglected for the longest in terms of identified as the consumer. It was primarily the Anglophone countries, former colonies of the Portuguese or the French that understood and consumed wine. And it's still the case. But what we've seen is that the growth in the Anglophone countries, less of the Lusophone and the Francophone countries. So we're seeing the Ghanaians, the Kenyans, the Nigerians appreciating wine. And better still that at least South Africa has made good inroads. I would safely say many of the countries, more than 80% of wine consumed is South Africans, primarily on those where we've got presence in. And I think ours is to do more work to ensure that we grow those numbers.
Interesting. So tell us about the African Continental Free Trade Area. How is the wine industry faring under this agreement?
I'm always thrilled when leadership takes initiatives such as the regional bloc agreements and that create opportunity. So the AFTA is also very critical for us from a point of that it gives access to market, but it also encourages intra-trade within the continent. At this stage, we are yet to see it benefiting the wine industry, meaning, as I mentioned to many people when I speak to them, that it's a policy that is adopted, but it's still to be filtered down where the actual action takes place, where the actual benefit of the use of the agreement to the benefit of the brand. So wine has not yet been identified as a line item that is to be benefiting, but we've put that forward to leadership to consider that, because at least it's one of the products that is a finished product. We always speak of a beneficiation, And this is when we could see the actual benefit of sending out a finished product, and wine is one of those benefits.
You know, Mr. Omkelemene is based in Ghana
Correct.
and Accra. So hopefully he's watching and taking notes from some of the concerns you've raised, because I think $1 billion and over $1 billion industry requires at least enough attention. But tell us about the impact of the industry on your economy. How big is it with regards to your GDP? How much jobs is it creating?
This is the actual industry that contributes 55 billion to the country's GDP. So it's a very critical. We employ over 265,000 people collectively with wine tourism. So it's a very significant contributor, but not just a significant contributor, it's also a finished product contributor. The very thing that we want to amplify, that businesses should take our natural resources beyond just being exported in volumes and bulk, but more on very finished product packaged, which means more beneficiation for the country, and therefore automatically creating opportunities of employment and so forth. So this is an industry that, if taken in comparison to others, should be given the necessary attention, as it employs a lot of people, not just the Western Cape, but other provinces, because wine business extends to other provinces within South Africa.
There's also an interesting dynamics in there within your wine industry. You consume a significant portion and still export quite a chunk. Help us understand the dynamics in there.
I think the dynamics also speaks to that. As a young, and I still maintain young, wine producing region, we still yet to sensitize local consumers to appreciate wine. It's an ongoing work that we do, and no different we do so in markets that we go through. But we have at least fortunate to be able to find balance, that we do export just over 45 to 50% of our total production, and that is to the benefit. But we also still need to work around that local consumption should also grow. That is why even in markets, we appreciate it when we see local consumers, as well obviously tourism also influencing. But once you have a good base of local consumption, you are a better position from a stability of business.
So how is the industry or the country helping to promote indigenous and upcoming brands as well in the industry?
A lot of work has been done over the years, a lot still to be done, of course. There are many initiatives. The South African wine industry spends millions in supporting the emerging brands, with intention of also roping them into the mainstream of the economy, but also roping them into the industry sector. So there are programs that have been run through form of training, through form of creating platforms. Just the other day you visited the Wine Arc in Stellenbosch, and the intention with that is to create what is a home for the brands to showcase, be it to their own consumers or visiting guests from outside South Africa. So there are many initiatives, and also in addition, businesses are being supported as emerging businesses to position themselves as businesses, not just by virtue of description that they are emerging or not, but because they need support of also being roped in the industry. So there's a lot of initiatives to drive that agenda.
Okay, so finally, I know you are a very pro-African person. Tell us finally, to all the audience who are watching you, how critical would you say it is for us to begin to look internally as a continent and as a people, especially if we want to see economic growth?
Look, there's so much that Africans have to offer that has not been looked into. Wines of South Africa is an export council, and that's also involved in the different markets. And I'll draw an example of Ghana in particular. We've worked very well and tirelessly with the chocolatiers. We've worked closely with Ghana Economic Export Promotion Agency, GEPA, in intention to drive intra-trade. So there's a lot of initiatives to promote the Ghanaian chocolates to South Africans, likewise as we do promoting South African wines to the Ghanaians. And that initiative has taken up to levels where we bring in the Ghanaian chocolatiers at our events in Ghana to showcase side by side the wine producers when we do exhibitions. In that way, we're trying to sensitize that they too have something of value that they should take and pair it with wine. So we're not in competition, we are collaborating. And no different, they've come to South Africa and done exhibitions to showcase the chocolates to South Africans, and the response was positive and amazing. And it means that should be an indicator that we have not taken ourselves serious, but at least now we're looking at these things. And I'm liking the likes of leaderships that are looking at creating opportunities to showcase and collaboration within Africa. And that is the future for the continent.
Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
And guys, to
Yes.
you watching in studio, we'll try and get you some wine when we're returning to Ghana. And this has been the business segment here on the afternoon show, where we bring you interview with Matome. He leads the Africa market for the wines of South Africa, the major body in charge of promoting South African wines. My name is Michael Ogbodu. Over to you guys in the studio.
Thank you.
Thank you.